boys and girls, and welcome to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. I am your host, Kevin Reed, and this is the review to the latest film from Ty West, the third film in this trilogy, which stars Mia Goth, and it's MaXXXine, a slasher action thriller film, and like I said, written, directed, produced, and edited by Ty West. This is the third installment in the X film series and a direct sequel to X, the first film in this trilogy, which came out in 2022. The film stars Mia Goth. She's reprising her role as Maxine Minx. Also starring alongside of her, we have Elizabeth Debicki, Moses Summery, Michelle Monaghan, Halsey, which I didn't even know she was in this film, Lily Collins, Giancarlo Espazzo, and Kevin Bacon. And in this installment, MaXXXine sets out for fame and success in 1980s Hollywood while being targeted by a mysterious killer. This is a film that I was anticipating because I enjoyed the first two films in this trilogy. I enjoyed X. I enjoyed Pearl. And so I was all in on this one, you know, seeing how they were going to, quote unquote, wrap up this trilogy, because each film had a different style. You can really take each film and it don't have to be connected, but it is connected. They have their own individual style and niche to it. You know, X, it was a homage to the 70s slasher films. You know, not Friday, Friday the 13th, in the Halloweens. It was kind of an homage to that in its own twisted way. While the prequel, Pearl, which was the second film in this franchise, it was kind of a twisted take on the Technicolor era, you know, from the 50s, 40s, 50s, 60s era or whatever. And I kind of dug that. And both films had outstanding performances by Mia Goth. Now we get to this third part of this trilogy, MaXXXine, and it's a disappointment. This film really disappointed me. You know, I enjoyed 2/3 of this movie. I enjoyed the first act and the second act, but the third act completely falls apart. I mean, completely falls apart. The style remains firmly in pace. You know, the time period, the 80s, it was it felt 80s. It felt like an 80s film, just like X felt like a 70s film. Pearl felt like a film from that era. And this film felt like an 80s film. It looked like a mid 80s era. You know, everything was authentic, from the wardrobe to the sets. You know, it all worked. It all meshed together. But there's nothing underneath. There was no substance to it. Ty West, as a writer director, he had a clear vision here, and he really executed his vision. And I'm not hating on him, because the film looks good. It really does. It looks good. The film is slow, but all of the films are slow. But it's earned slow. You know, it's entertaining in between. But this movie didn't have that. You know, it wasn't a lot of interesting storylines going on, and that includes the main one. It didn't intrigue me. You know, it wasn't. They didn't have a hero to get behind. You know, MaXXXine, we couldn't get behind MaXXXine. You know, there's no motivation there. It was just blank. I see the style that they were going for here. It really felt like a Brian De Palma film from back in the day. You know, Brian De Palma, who gave us, you know, The Untouchables and the first Mission Impossible film, and Carrie, and the list goes on for him. It had that tone. It had that kind of feel. But it fell short in a lot of other areas. You know, they really infused real life events here with the Night Stalker thing. And if you don't know about the Night Stalker, serial killer from the mid 80s, look them up. They actually have an excellent documentary on the Night Stalker on Netflix that I watched not too long ago. Awesome documentary. Disturbing, very disturbing, but awesome nonetheless. And they infused it into this story for no reason. I felt, I understand why they did it, but it didn't really move the story along any. It didn't help the motivation of anybody in this film, other than the fact it was just coincidentally happening concurrently with the events of MaXXXine. Performance wise, Mia Goth, who did an excellent job in the two previous films in this franchise, like I said, couldn't get behind her in this one because she really didn't give us anything. She had the same bland look throughout this film. Her opening scene, it was the most emotion she gave throughout the entire film. And we got that in the first 5 minutes of the film. After that, it was the same facial expression, same emotion. Now, she did emote in one scene towards the middle of the film, but even that scene, I didn't buy it. I didn't buy her emotion in that scene. And I can't get my head around it because, like I said, it's not like she's a bad actress. She's far from bad. She is an amazing actress. If you don't believe me, watch X, watch Pearl. She is awesome in those films. I don't know. I don't get this. I don't get this performance that she gave here. I just could not connect with her performance. The standout performance to me is Kevin Bacon, who I didn't even know was in this movie. Kevin Bacon was amazing. He really kept me interested in this film from the time he was in it. Not going to spoil anything, but once Kevin Bacon was out of the equation, the movie just fell apart. It was nothing else worth watching. After that, he really kept this film together. I loved his performance. I loved his character. A good foil for our protagonist. Like I said, put a question mark there because are we supposed to be cheering for MaXXXine here? I once again, questions. Because we learned in the first film, in X, that MaXXXine has this X factor. She just has it, and that's what makes this film so frustrating as it evolves. It just, there's no more to that. There's no more to add to this character. It's none. There's no arc here. She has an arc in the film, but it is so forced. It's just written into the movie. It's not like it organically happened. And like I said, frustrating. I do like the messaging here. I think that they're trying to get across that how Hollywood is a cesspool of exploitation. I get all that. I get where they were going with that, and it is disgusting. It is kind of an expose on Hollywood, the behind the scenes of everything. Yeah, cool. But they kind of pity patted around it. They didn't really go hard in the paint with it because you have a character that didn't care about that. She just wanted to be famous. It's not all of that behind the scenes buffoonery. She didn't care, as long as she got what she wanted at the end. And I think that was the wrong messaging. If anything, that should have frustrated her. That should have made her want to act out on her violent tendencies, but that didn't. And I guess maybe it's me. Maybe it's me. I was expecting this to go one way, and it clearly went the other way. I was expecting it to go east, and it ended up going west. That's my dad joke for the day. But yeah, it It just didn't quite get there for me. Now they did have kills in here. They had some interesting kills in here. And I say interesting in heavy quotations because it was just gory for gory's sake. Two in particular. It was just gory. Now, one was pretty cool. One of the I think there was three big gory deaths in this film. One was probably one of the best in the franchise in film in a while. Not the best in film in a while, but one of the most interesting ones in film in a while. I did like that, but that happened in the middle of the movie, and nothing else interesting happened after that. But the other two big gory deaths were just gory to say they could show blood and mutilation, and it just had no impact. If for things like that, it gotta have an impact. It gotta have a point to it, and not in this film. Not in this one. Overall, I'm just very disappointed. I don't hate the movie. Surprisingly enough, if you going by how I'm talking about it, I don't hate it. But I will say this is a film I don't plan to watch again unless I'm truly bored and there's nothing else on television. As opposed to the first two films, I would watch those again. But this one, not so much. MaXXXine gets a letter grade of a D+. Yeah, it was disappointing. Not the worst film I've seen this year, but it's far from being even average. It's not even in the average category. In a year that is begging for a film to be good, it hasn't been. It's been a really disappointing year. You can probably count on one hand how many really good films have come out this year. And I wasn't expecting this to be on my top 10 list at the end of the year, but I was expecting it to be entertaining. I wasn't entertained. I was actually bored. It was boring throughout this film, and it never stopped being boring. I was holding on hope at the end. Maybe we get this big climax. Nope, didn't get that either. But that's just one man's opinion. I would like to know yours. How did you feel about MaXXXine starring Mia Goth, directed by Ty West? Let me know by email. Email the show kbradiopodcast@gmail.com. You can also search for the show on all social media platforms. Just search for the KB Radio Network. Also, don't forget about subscribing to the KB Radio Network channel on YouTube and liking this video if you don't mind. Also, don't forget about the 5 stars, reviews, and sharing this show if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, wherever you are currently listening to the concession stand here on the KB Radio Network. Everybody, thank you for joining me for this review of MaXXXine. Want you all to know that I love you, continue to love everyone, and until we speak again, you all be blessed.